day that has been months in the planning is finally almost here. I decided this year I would do an art market. Well, it's actually not an art market, it's a women's show. So this is what it looks like while I'm setting up. Everything is quite a mess, but I think it's coming together. This is the getting the closer set up. The show is about 15 minutes away from opening, and I just thought I would show you the finished booth. I think it works. Over here I've got these little house portraits I did. And of course, you can ask me about getting a house portrait. I've got my newsletter sign-up sheet and some flowers, art cards, and some of my adult coloring books. And then I have a super special, unbelievable super special, which is only for this show, on the 8x10s that I've done. So there's a little one there. And then on this side, a new sign. It's kind of a challenge figuring out how to do the displays, and I kind of made do with what I had for the most part. I didn't purchase too much. A lot of 8x10s, which I've painted in the last few months. And overall, I'm pretty happy with it. So it's the third day of the show, and it has been interesting. I haven't made a lot of sales, but I've got a lot of information that I wanted to get. So I'm using it as market research, which is great. So it's Monday after a 3-day show, and this is what my living room looks like today. So there's a lot to do today. Doesn't all have to be done today because I'm basically taking a rest day. Doing a big show is a lot of hard work, a lot of standing on concrete floors, a lot of keeping your energy up and talking to people and drawing their attention to your products and your artwork. And it's very tiring, especially if you haven't slept very well for a week before, because every waking minute and minute that you should be sleeping, you're thinking of what else do I need? What can I not forget? And how am I going to do this? And how am I going to do that? And I'm happy to say that I thought of everything that I would need, and I brought it all, and now you can see why there's so much stuff. But that's pretty normal for a big trade or consumer show, because you're basically setting up a mini store in a space, and it takes a lot of stuff. Fortunately, my husband helped with the heavy lifting. I have a couple of display units that I use that I can carry them, but they're kind of heavy for me. If I were going to do more shows, and I think I might, I haven't really decided. It's too early in the morning. I need to do some pros and cons and go through. In a minute, I'll talk about what worked and how I feel about the whole thing. If I were going to do more shows, I'm going to have to change my product line a little bit, and also look at my pricing and look at booth setup and how it can work and what will work. I used to do a lot of shows and had my systems down and everything. Going forward, if this is something that I think is a good direction for me, I have to figure out new systems and new products and things like that, just to simplify it all, make it easier physically for me, because I'm not going to knock myself out. I'm not going to hurt myself moving heavy things. So that part has to change. However, here's some things that I learned from this show. Number one, it wasn't an art show. It was a women's expo. So I thought that was good, because mostly my target market is women, I think. I think my work probably appeals to women. Not that it doesn't appeal to men, because I did ask, there weren't many men there, and I talked to a few, and I asked everybody their opinion to please look at all the artwork in my booth and let me know what appealed to them most. One of my goals for the show was just to do market research. And I'm really happy to say that it was very worth it for that, because I was thinking if I had to figure it out on my own over a long period of time, I could spend a whole lot more money, and it could take years to really know what people respond to. But in this case, I was able to just ask people, and what's your favorite piece? What is appealing to you, and why? What catches your eye? How does it make you feel? So, and when I've done sales, I've always said it doesn't matter what you're selling, people are buying a feeling. And I got really good feedback on that. So that was great. Of course, I wanted to make sales, and I did, but I had to adjust my pricing on some smaller pieces, which I didn't really want to do given how much time it takes to actually paint a picture. I tried them at a little bit higher price, and they just weren't moving. I'd say these are only such and such price, and they go, "Oh yeah, I see that." But when I dropped it down, $12 actually, and they weren't high to begin with. Then they started to sell. People were going, we're actually looking at them a little more seriously. So that was nice. Valuable information, but not sustainable, because my cost of the canvases and the paint wasn't that high, but the time involved means that I wasn't making much money for my time. So that's one of those things you have to think about. And the other thing was, with regard to the show, was setting up is time consuming. Because I hadn't done it for a long time, I did set it up as much as I could at home, and you could see from the shots of my living room that it's not big. And I had a 10 by 10 booth, but when I set it all up, it actually worked out really well. So I pictured it all in my mind for different scenarios of how to place things. And so when we went to set it up, I actually switched two things from one side to another, and it worked really well. I also had bought a grid unit, those ones that you put together in cubes, and that was a really good buy and a really good display unit. I talked to another vendor who said she had used the tall grid units, and she said they're just so heavy, and she had defaulted to the cube ones as well, and it made a really nice display. The reason I chose that was because it's easy for me to move. That was a good purchase. I didn't buy big units. Oh, well, I'll show you. I have these. This is a bifold door that I got from a lumber place, like a secondhand lumber place. And this is a threefold screen that has, sorry, this is kind of awkward. This is what it looks like on the back. And I found that my hooks actually hooked right into there. So it actually worked out really well. I really had no idea if it would or not, but I had bought special hooks to go with the grid, and I bought extra ones, and they worked excellently on that. This is my studio, and you can see the chaos of my studio. I took the rug on the second day. I had thought about taking it on the first day, which was a 5-hour evening. My feet were so sore afterwards. I thought, okay, that's it. I'm taking my rug. It's not a big one, but it was enough, and it's got the cushy underlay stuff. It was enough to just give me a place to stand that wasn't painful. But I had to, because it goes underneath where the stool is, I usually put it along here. I had to kind of tear everything apart and move it all around, and I was painting beforehand, and everything's a big jumble. I took this apron, which was very handy because I could put money and my phone in here, and I didn't have to wonder where it was. So will I do more shows? I might, because I like the camaraderie with all the other vendors, and if you do the same circuits, you get to know people that way. I had some really good connections that I made with other vendors, other artists who were there, and everybody's really open about things, which is great, because it doesn't really help you if everyone's kind of cagey and secretive about how much they're making and what the sales are like and all that. And I share openly with other vendors. This is what I'm doing, and this is what works for me, and this is what didn't work for me, and so do they. So you actually learn a lot from the other people at the show selling or at the market. And so that's really worthwhile. I also made some really good connections with people that came to my booth. I had put a sign up that said, ask me about house portraits. And I had some people who were very interested in that. So we'll see what happens. People say they're interested and then they never follow up or whatever. And I just kind of leave it. I don't want to chase people down. I gathered email addresses and so I had printed off a sign up sheet for emails for my email list. The first day and a half, I was just really tired. And I find when I'm tired, my energy is low. So I'm not as good at sales because I'm just not very outgoing. I'm an introvert anyway. And I'm not shy at all or anything. But I find when my energy is low, I just don't want to deal with people very much. So that's a really important consideration because if you're an artist and you're thinking of shows, it's important to know how your energy is going to land because of all the time and the heavy lifting that happens beforehand. But a friend of mine had offered to come and work with me. And I was like, okay, sure. I wasn't really expecting that. I just figured I'd do it all myself anyway, because that's how I've always done them. But she came in and she was absolutely a dynamo. And I went and took a lunch break, and I came back and she'd filled most of a sheet with email addresses. Seeing that and watching her just kind of gave me more energy. So I ended up with about 2.5 pages, single spaced, of email addresses, people who want to be on my list. And I just asked them if they wanted to. Some didn't, of course, and that's fine. There's no point in them getting on the list because they'll just get off it again. Lots of people said, yeah, I'd like that. I got new business cards before the show and I ordered 250. I gave away over 200, I'm sure. Yeah, over 200 business cards. So who knows? It's a numbers game sometimes. So you have to just keep putting things out there and see what happens. So going forward, I have a talk with my coach this week. I'm going to do a pros and cons of going forward. I'm going to pray about it and just see where God leads me. One of the problems at this time of year is it's sometimes hard to get into shows because they've been full for a long time. All the spaces are taken. Now, I haven't done an art show, specific art show. There is one coming up in a couple of weeks, but basically you have to get in January to get into the November show. So I need to make a decision before the end of the year if I want to be in some of those big shows and you got to pay for them and they're a few $100s each. So that's a big consideration. And you want to know that there's a good chance that you're going to make money and make a profit, not just break even. I actually paid for my booth with my sales. All in all, it was a good experience because I learned some things I needed to learn or wanted to learn. Going forward, we'll see. If I do decide to do more shows, I have to put it away in a certain pattern so that it's a lot easier to get out. And I don't have to rip the house apart to do that. So anyway, I'm back with video. I did take quite a break, but I'm back and I don't know how frequently I'll post, but I love YouTube and I love making videos and I'll keep you posted. And if you're still with me, thank you so much. I appreciate it beyond measure.